Jim Ziegler the Alpha Dawg, and this is the Dog Pound. Okay, we got another exciting show for you this week. I've got some of the foremost experts in the world in the automotive industry on today. Starting out with my good friend from Vero Beach, Florida, Kip Rowe.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Kip, you are also the founder of Instant Car Offer. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. We buy a lot of cars off the public, so that's something else we do.
Fantastic. So how is business in Vero Beach, Florida right now?
It's really good. We've had a great year, and we still have traffic. We've always had cars, and it's all good.
Fantastic. And one of the foremost trainers, sales trainers and management trainers in the industry today, another good friend, Tim Kintz. Hello, Tim.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Not sure my video is catching very good, but hopefully you got my words.
We can hear you perfectly, and I can still see you up there in the corner frame. So, sign behind you says 67 GTO. Do you have one of those?
That's my next car.
I had a 67 GTO about 10 years ago. I had one that was completely restored by a dealer, and I
got to get my 12 and 13-year-old. I got to get my 12 and 13-year-old out of the house, so then I'll destroy it.
I'll tell you, Tim, kids are like boogers. You know, you think you flicked them away, and you look, and they're still there.
That's right.
Damn, he's still here.
Isn't that the truth?
One of the most brilliant women in the car business, my friend Jennifer Briggs. Jennifer, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm having a wonderful day. It's storming here in Atlanta. I mean, there's thunder boomers all over the place. If you remember, I did a broadcast here about.
Didn't you get hit by lightning a few
months ago? And I got hit by lightning during
stuck in time
and knocked out of the chair.
Oh, not today.
Not today. Bryan. I mean, I was on the air with the guys from Dealer Teamwork, and all of a sudden, it knocked me out of the chair. I mean, lightning came through my headset. So hey, stay tuned for the show, folks. You might see something exciting. And talking about exciting, one of the most exciting women in the car business, Horne Automotive, no relation to Bryan Horne in the next.
I actually get asked that a lot.
Yeah. Horne Automotive, 13 dealerships. What is your position, April?
My technical title is the corporate marketing and internet director, but virtually, anything that needs to be done, I'm kind of just jump in and do. So
I hired a woman one time to work for my company, and she was going to be my marketing director. And I asked her, I said, "Would you scrub a toilet?" She said, "I would not." And I said, "Well, yesterday we janitors didn't show up, and I personally had to scrub a toilet. So if you won't scrub a toilet, you can't work here."
Well, it depends on how bad the toilet is. Find somebody to do it, right? Like there's a part where I go, yeah, I'll scrub the toilet, and then I go find somebody who's willing to do it for me.
Either way gets done. Either way.
Okay. Yeah, but anyway, that woman did not get hired. That interview didn't work for her. And
spend so much time defending you with these things.
Bryan Horne, where's your dealership?
I'm in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Harrisonburg, Virginia. I have been very close to you. I mean, we talked about the Statler brothers earlier. I got to meet those guys and become friends with them when I was in Waynesboro, which is right next door to you.
Right.
Right.
How's sales loyalty around here?
How's sales right now?
Volume's down, inventory's down, demand is up. So, just to let you know, we're more of a smaller mid-sized market, getting squeezed with inventory crunch, just like everybody else is. But there is a ton of demand that we can't fulfill. So profitabilities are good, just car counts are down. And I think a lot of people in my position are in the same boat.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you marking up the vehicles?
No, we do not. We don't mark them up over MSRP at all. And we're kind of in a weird area, about 70 miles south of Northern Virginia. So we're not quite Northern Virginia, more of a rural type, a college town, but more rural. We're getting a lot of our inventory plucked from the areas that aren't even our PMA because they're marking them up. We're not. So here we are.
We're going to talk about that because, I just wrote an article that's got thousands and thousands of views already about how the manufacturers are marking up the cars because they saw the dealers doing it.
Yeah.
They're all indignant and self-righteous about us marking up the cars, and all of a sudden, Automotive News today is talking about how Ford is marking up everything $6,000 and $7,000.
Have you ever noticed the ones screaming the loudest are typically the most guilty of doing what they're screaming about?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
Tim,
true.
jump in there. Tim, what were you about to say?
No, I was agreeing 100%.
Yeah,
Manufacturers really brave when things are good.
Marking up the car $6,000-$7,000. Now, by the way, is Toyota participating in that fest, Kip?
No, they don't complain about it, but I've heard we've got to do everything.
And how much
varying amounts depending on the demand for the car.
How much is a typical addendum?
Anywhere from probably the lowest one we have is somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 up to, Tundra Pro, you're talking 25,000 over.
25,000 over, and that has to do with supply and demand. I can understand dealerships that were designed to sell 200 units a month, and the manufacturer is supplying you 80 units a month, and it was their idea to build that facility in the first place.
Right, and the thing is, it's nobody can control the prices except for the consumers. If people stop paying it, we'd have to stop charging it. But we don't like the idea of selling somebody a Tundra Pro for $70,000, and then we see it at Manheim next week, and they sell it for $95,000. So they're probably not going to get one from us and then take it to the auction and make money on it.
Exactly, and the other thing is, there's a lot of brokers buying these cars and flipping them right now.
Yeah, we buy cars from people from the Midwest all the time. There's people. It's like an epidemic. I'll be happy when it's over. A guy from Miami will buy a car in Missouri, title it in Wyoming so he doesn't have to pay tax on it, and then he'll sell it at the auction and make $10,000 or $15,000 on it.
Okay, as I was doing the
on.
introductions, the last introduction I want to do is another one of the most brilliant women in the car business, the queen of BDC, Bobby Heron. Hi, kid.
Hi, you.
Okay, Bobby, what's changed?
Man, everything has changed. I don't know if I would even say everything has changed as much as I would say that things that were already in the process of changing have become more relevant, have come more to the surface, and we've had to change the way that we do business and the way that we process things internally in the store to keep up with it. Had we listened before, we probably wouldn't have had to do that so much now. But market is what it is on anything. It inflates, it comes down, and it happens based on supply and demand and what the consumer expects and what they demand from us. Right?
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
I don't know if I got a real problem with people marking up cars $100,000, but $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, even $20,000. If the consumers will pay it, the other thing is, it rolls out on the trade-in because they're getting a lot more for the trade-in. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street. And I think the biggest thing to go back to that hasn't changed is that price is only an issue in the absence of value. So if you're not providing a value, now in scarcity situations, having that actual piece of inventory is the value. But where I think everyone should be sharpening their sword is, especially in these times where we are asking for all the money, and you should. Again, the market will bear what it can bear. But I think some of the things that I don't think we're changing well enough with is we're asking all the money, but still giving some lackluster service to those particular customers. And I think that's where we start to see some issues.
Well, right now,
Yeah.
nobody. Tim Kintz said something to me yesterday, and it just stuck with me. You know, people are buying cars. We're not selling cars.
Right.
Tim, explain that to us.
Well, it's people are coming in. We could have kiosks right now selling as many cars as most salespeople are. It's just a matter of can we get them the car, and how many salespeople are in the business right now that were never in the industry prior to the pandemic, and they're going to be in for a rude awakening when reality starts kicking back in, whenever that is, whether it's 6 months, a year, whatever it is. It's shooting fish in a barrel right now, and most guys don't understand that it's not normal to make $1,500 commission, $5,000 car. And
okay, so most salesmen don't
get good at
understand that $1,500 commission is not going to be forever.
I tell our guys all the time that it'll change, but they keep looking at their paycheck and wondering when that's going to be. But I told them, don't worry, it'll happen.
Well, as managers,
Brett Sutherland is a good friend of mine, owns the Sutherland stores. I mean, a very close friend of mine. And market is changing. Our Nissan store at Malla, Georgia got 51 new Nissans in July, and we are promised 183 in December. So all of a sudden, inventory is coming back. And he says it's like this at all 14 of his Sutherland stores.
He's got a store right across the street from us.
Yeah.
Does he?
Well, I think what a lot of salespeople fail to understand is we don't have to get back to inventory levels that we had pre-pandemic. We just have to get to the point that we've got the car and 2 other dealerships have the car, and now there's competition, and now we have to be able to sell and close. And the best time to get good at something is when you don't have to be good. And man, now's when everybody's got to be honing their skills. They got to be getting good at negotiating. Most of these guys have no clue what negotiating is all about.
Not at all.
Well, but so on the other end of the spectrum too, I see Eddie Gilbert is commenting quite a bit on here. And yesterday he left a comment. I won't go too far into this, but I do want to address it because I think it's misunderstood often. But yesterday he left a comment on the show's post upcoming saying, the customer doesn't care about prices or value. It's BS. These experts talk about how the sky is falling and these customers won't come back because of market adjustment. But to be clear, what we're talking about is what happens to the dealership in 2 to 3 years when the lease is up, when the vehicle is being traded in. I don't believe anybody said, oh, the customer is going to go, you overcharged me by $5,000. I'm never buying from you again. They say that about us all the time. They've been doing it for years. What our concern is operationally, internally, are you accruing properly for that change that's going to happen? And are you prepared for it? Mm-hmm. So just wanted to make sure I clarified that under the expert opinion.
Okay, now here's the CEO of Black Book, Paul Matchin. And Paul's a good friend of mine. Paul is the CEO of Black Book. He said, I've never known a customer forced to pay or finance any used unit. What do you think, Bryan?
I agree with that. We don't force them to do a thing. Now, just talking real quick, what Bobby just talked about the experts' opinion. I saw that too, Bobby. One thing that I think we all need to, especially dealerships, one thing the manufacturers do when they come out with these, grandiose ideas, how we're going to do the frictionless, we're doing the customer satisfaction, we're doing all that. They're thinking from New York City to LA. All the guys like me in between, they really don't consider what happens. What you just talked about right there, Bobby, was when we have to floor a lot of our used cars. What's getting ready to happen, what the graphic that was just touched on about all the cars that the dealers are hopefully getting in September, we're going to be underwater on a lot of these used cars. So even at an operational level, if we haven't been maintaining a turn, we haven't been maintaining all the things that we did in the past pre-pandemic that we don't have to worry about now because, just was touched on, if you have the inventory, you're winning, you're selling. We could literally put buyer's orders under windshield wipers right now and sell as many cars as we would with salespeople. Those are the things that I think really.
I think Tim just said that for sure.
Yeah.
How many rooftops do you have? You got 3 rooftops, correct?
I have 2 that I oversee, 3 within my group, and we're not a public group. We're not a huge group. First generation. we're not capitalized and built the way the publics are. So, a lot of the things that we've had to do with our day-to-day processes could have very easily over the last couple of years gotten away from us. And when this inventory starts showing up, and we have the used cars that that we have, and we forgot how to do turns, we forgot how to do all the things to maintain financial awareness in our own operation, that's when S is going to hit the fan. And we're going.
Process evaporation is a real problem.
Kipro, how's your processes holding up?
Well, I'm sure our processes are not now what they would have been like in 2008 when everything was went to hell in a handbasket. But we have a really good process of meeting and greeting the customer, sitting them down, assessing what they're looking to accomplish. And then we also do a good job, I think, of explaining and justifying the addendum that we have on the car. So our salespeople never cease to amaze me how good they are.
Explain the addendum to me. Explain 8,000 over sticker.
Well, each one of our guys, some of them have a better way of explaining it than others, but the way I see it work the most is, yes, we have an addendum on our car, but you're going to benefit from these increased prices on your trade-in, and you still have to land the people on a car that they'll buy today if the figures are agreeable. When I look at MSRP, I think about the guy's driving a 2019 RAV4. It had an MSRP of $28,000. Now, if you go to his, if he leased it and had a 70% residual, that means that now the MSRP is not $28,000, it's about $20,000. But we're going to give them $28,000 for the car. So they just got $8,000 over sticker for their car. And people are pretty receptive to that.
Are you World Omni?
We don't do that. We do have World Omni. We don't do all that much. We do a lot of World Omni stuff.
What leasing company is carrying these?
We're not leasing that many cars right now because everybody. Yeah. But the crazy thing is, we have people come in that leased a car 3 years ago and they have $10,000 equity.
Right.
So if you don't have an addendum, what am I supposed to do? Give them $28,000 for their 19 RAV4 with 30,000 miles on it, and let them have the brand new one for the same price?
April, jump in there.
I think it's a frustrating thing that we talk about these addendums because this is something that just is market. What is the market bearing? And this happens over and over and over again. I remember a time where we wouldn't even take an SUV in on trade because we had too many of them, but we couldn't get rid of them. People were willing to trade in an SUV, take half what the book was, and pay double for a Prius. You know what I'm saying? So people will do what they want to do. This is a choice for most people to purchase a vehicle or to not. And so if they're choosing to purchase and they're willing to pay the addendum and they're getting 37% more for their trade, they don't really have a problem paying 10 to 12% more for the vehicle. I mean, we're barely hitting.
Because they're getting that much more for the trade.
Right.
At the end of
our trade penetration is over 70% for the year. Now, we don't incentivize people to trade a car in. We don't tell them they have to. We don't tell them they got to finance it. We're in Vero Beach. Most of these people can write a check for whatever they want to. So, and you'd be amazed how many people buy a car for $10,000 over sticker, trade in their car. They get more than what they paid for it. And then they buy a second car and trade in yet another vehicle while they're here. It happens all the time.
Yep, totally agree. I think the thing we have to focus more on, though, is this transition that we all know is coming, right? Like
it's already on us.
It's happening now.
And we know that it's starting to move, and we have a lot of staff who either don't know how to negotiate or, quite frankly, the worst part of it is not understanding when this changes what they're going to have to do. The issue is that we all have great processes. We've all had processes for years. The problem is the accountability to the process right now. And the accountability is a problem because it's hard to get people to do the things that they don't necessarily have to do today to sell a car. And so then when we start forcing them
Let me point something out. I just did a little research because I wrote an article on LinkedIn called "Dirty Little Secret." The last time that we could really find out what the manufacturers paid or how much profit they made was 2016. Manufacturers have been excellent at masking their true profit, but in 2016, the big three, Stellantis, General Motors, and Ford, made $13,500 per truck. That was the average, 13.5. This year, the first 6 months of this year, they have made 17.5 per truck sold. And now they just raised them $8,000 according to Automotive News today. So they have scoffed up the additional profits that they see the dealers getting. They don't mind taking that profit from the consumers, but they
just don't want us doing it.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and
like when the virtue signaling.
Yeah, when we talk about dealership profits, I think it's so important to always emphasize that we always talk about this as like, okay, well, the dealer is marking this up or the OEM is marking up. But here's the truth. Outside of a deceptive trade practice and with true transparency, obviously included in what I'm about to say, people will pay what they want to pay for anything. They negotiate at our desk all the time, and then they leave and say, like, we put a gun to their head and they had to pay $3,000 more, which we all know is not true. The markup on milk right now is higher for inflation than it is on a vehicle. So it's like, let's go with that. If you're not wanting to buy a car right now at $5,000 over, don't buy a car right now. If I were you, I'd sell my trade to the dealership and Uber for a little while. But otherwise, like, let's get over it. It is what it is. I had to pay $3.80 for a loaf of bread the other day. That's normally like $1.25. But if that was the focus on all of the industries, it would be a huge issue. Yes, it's going to be a problem for a little while for the consumer if they view it that way. But I live in a state where most things are controlled by employee pricing, and we still have markups. Again, assuming you're not being deceptive. The biggest transition, I agree with April, is going to be the lack of process or evaporation that's occurring. I saw a salesperson the other day that's 23 years old, less than a year in the business, and he's bored. And I'm a top performer. You're selling 10 cars, you're average. And right now in today's market, if you're selling 10 cars, I'm not sending you a trophy. My kid can sell 10 cars right now. And if you don't like that, I'm not a good person for you to work with because that's bull.
Hey, Tim Kintz. Are these kids coming into the business looking for a trophy with 10 units?
Oh, we took the scoreboard, so yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're teaching them that too. We're in a dealership like, high five, do whatever you want. Don't follow the process. You're a 10 car a month guy or girl. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What are you going to do with that person in a year when they're at the bottom of the
Excuse me.
And it's because of the language you're not teaching them.
They're going to quit.
Excuse me.
Right. Like we don't already have a turn problem in our industry.
A monkey
Culture
with a note in his mouth a monkey with a note in his mouth can sell 10 units.
Unless you don't have 10 on the ground, and then I will take that back temporarily. Okay, I'll take that back temporarily.
Although I'm going to go out and I'm going to say again, the kids are going to get away with whatever we let them. So
exactly,
comes down to the leaders.
No,
all about management and the leaders.
No, it's always the leader's fault. You're a leader.
Going to be
always your fault.
It's going to be more of a problem, and yes, process evaporation. And I see the backsliding and the sloppiness and the cutting the corners in all of the stores that I work with. But the one that concerns me the most from an operator's perspective is that of my sales managers. Somebody mentioned earlier, we're not paying attention to turn. We're not looking at all the different metrics. I think it was Bryan who was talking about the amount of water. Like we are rapidly trying to bail out of any situation that we're sitting in a non-equitable position with current inventory, free up that capital right now. So as we're stepping forward.
How many dealerships are you working with, Jennifer?
About 37.
And then, so I know you're working with some big groups, and you got a lot of influence in those groups.
It's just a matter of we can talk about the consumers and the markup and whatever, but business is business. And the only time that it's an issue is when we let it be an issue. We are great sales professionals. We can sell anything. But the problem is that in our management level, we are not enforcing things, not with the floor and not with our own processes to make sure that we're buying right, that we're turning right, that we're making sure that we're looking at that capital investment in the dealership and making business decisions.
You know, Jennifer, I've been a management trainer, and you know, I train salespeople, but mostly management. And when I'm in a sales manager seminar through the years, the last 30 years, thousands of sales managers. And sales managers say, well, I can't get my salespeople to do this. I can't get my salespeople to do that. Or they won't do this. And I said, well, what is that a symptom of? And when I said in my seminars, what is that a symptom of? The entire class would yell out, weak management.
100%.
So,
yeah, because
what is that a symptom of?
To.
Weak management. Anytime a manager complains to me they can't get their salespeople to do something, what's that a symptom of? Hey, Kip, what's that a symptom of?
Irresponsible management.
Yeah.
It's irresponsible.
The manager is not.
Yeah, good, Kip.
Yeah, go Kip.
Right, Kip.
What I see happen in that situation is the managers nowadays have, in my opinion, you see the managers lose intensity, and you see the managers, not pushing. I do see a lack of showroom traffic follow-up. A lot of the stuff, the internet leads and stuff nowadays, I think some dealers would be better off if they weren't getting as many leads as they are, because they're doing such a poor job of working them. And I include my own staff in that, because we get people, if like Toyota right now, at the end of the month, we had a 6-day supply of cars. And believe it or not, we were one of the worst in SET. Out of 180 dealers, we were near the bottom. Most of them have almost 0 cars. But now they have a huge pipeline of cars coming in, and we have so many cars pre-sold. But I think, the people have forgotten how to fish. They don't know what prospecting is. They're just waiting for the guy to walk through the door.
Right.
So anyway, how many units do you sell on a normal month and a normal times before all this started? Pre-COVID.
I think we were selling about 350. I came here right at the beginning of COVID, and we were selling about 350 cars a month. Now we haven't had a month less than 450 in 18 months probably.
Wow.
So we sell about 450 to 500 every month.
Right now.
Yeah.
And how are you acquiring inventory?
I bought about 25 cars at the auction today. We buy, I've always operated by, if you need cars, buy cars. Don't let the price stop you. I think that's what put a lot of dealers on the sideline is in May, June of 2020, when the prices went up, a huge number of people went on the sideline. Now, right now in the wholesale market, there's very few dealers out there buying cars right now. Like for the last couple of years, we've had our own lane at Manheim, and we'd have 300 people online. Now we're lucky if we have 100 online. And that's going on at every auction around the country. It's really weird. There's still a very diminished supply of cars, but the demand to buy those cars is dropping rapidly. Now, the cars under, say, 25,000, I feel like are unaffected by all this. But if you've got a car that's 40 or 50 or more, if you keep that car for 30 days, you're going to lose your shirt on it. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
because cars aren't going up anymore. You wouldn't believe how many cars we bought from people that had less than 100 miles on them.
Wow.
I mean, people buy a Bronco down the street for sticker. They bring it to us. They make some money. Then, like last year, I sold 4,000 cars at Manheim, and we made a lot of money off of this.
They're flipping houses. They're flipping cars like they're flipping houses. They really are.
Yeah, everybody that for the last 6 months, everybody who bought a Tesla, they turned around and sold it. Well, Tesla's smart. They've raised the prices 3 or 4 times. I mean, they've raised their prices on most cars $10,000 this year. Yeah, it's amazing. And people just keep on doing it.
Tim Kintz, what changes are you seeing in your training classes? You're training a lot of salespeople. What's different?
Well, from pre-pandemic, it's the experience that they're giving customers. They become lazy, like people have said. You talk about markups. Look, doing a dealer markup's fine as long as you give an experience to justify that dealer markup. I think the biggest thing that all these guys that I spend time with is we got to remember, man, the customer experience, whether it's ordering a unit that's coming in, whether it's buying something off your lot, it's about delivering an exceptional experience to that customer when they're there face to face. But what's that experience once they have ownership? What's their ownership journey like? And I think that's where for so long that just drops off. And, I ask dealers all the time, how much do we spend per buyer in advertising? And we all know that number, whether it's 600, 800, 300. And then I ask them, how much are we spending per buyer in retention after the sale? And it's next to nothing on making sure that we're taking care of these people. Look, make 10 grand, make 20 grand on that customer, but make sure that after the sale, we're doing everything we can to retain that customer, to keep our service profitable. Everybody wants to buy from the same place they bought, but man, if they feel like they had a crappy experience and they paid a lot, that's when we're going to lose customers long term. So I think really as leaders and managers, we have to bust our ass to make sure salespeople are doing the right things. We need to speed the velocity of the sale up when customers are there. We need to tune the guys up in negotiating, or teach most of these guys how to negotiate, because they have no clue. Their losses last year's Easter egg if they had to sit down and negotiate a car deal. And then make sure that we have our retention, our trade cycle management set up so we can trade these people in, the old Tasca saying, to and renew, and keep this trade cycle. Hell, if they're buying cars and flipping them, they're buying more cars. And we just have to take better care of those customers. And it all comes down to the experience, man. It's not magic, but the hard part is making time to train. It's boring as hell because we train on walkarounds. Well, most of these guys are selling off computers. They're selling off order units that are coming in. So, the art of doing walkarounds has disappeared because they haven't had cars to do walkarounds on. Asking for commitments.
Well,
it's like, if you want to buy
even
it,
saying
cool,
that,
and if you don't, somebody's coming in 2 hours and they're going to buy it.
Even saying that, like, here's a pro tip for your team if you're doing walk around training, is that people are consuming data both online and in real life, similar to how we consume TikTok. 30, 60, 3 minutes. This is a top running algorithm. You shouldn't be doing walkarounds or content anymore the way that you used to, because the attention span doesn't work that way anymore. It has to be jump in, jump out. It has to pertain to what they're doing. And if you're paying attention to your digital opportunities, you already know the customer's journey before, how they came in, how they found you, what source they're on, and how to communicate with them. And that's the stuff that should be being trained right now, because it is fun. It can be fun, and it's giving them content socially that can be used and that can be sent out to a consumer. And it's teaching them to shorten the length of time that they spend with the consumer on the lot. I mean, let's face it, we spend 80% of our time where we make 0% of our money.
Right.
And we spend 20% of our time where we make all of our money. And all of the lead up to that slows everything down in the middle of a society that works like this on instant gratification. It's a mistake, and it costs money. And now is the time to fix it. Now is the time for a manager to get involved and fix it.
Yeah, the old school.
Jump in there, Bryan. Bryan, jump in there.
It's got to be tightened up.
I agree exactly with what he's saying. And going into this, we were talking about what's changed. What he just said about new employees, and it's not just the salespeople. I would venture to say the sales management also. We've gone about 2 years now where we really haven't had to negotiate anything on a car. So now my biggest fear, and I have in my manager meetings, I had this conversation. I'm so afraid that we're conditioned right now that when this does turn, we don't remember how to be salespeople anymore. We won't remember how to negotiate, how to do proper product presentations, how to do proper follow-up. How much follow-up do you really need to do when the car they just looked at sold the moment they walked out, and you're not getting another one for 3 months? I mean, we talked about
inventory on the ground and inventory in cyberspace is two different things.
It is.
Joshua Hale says, what if we want to fight direct to consumer sales? Now, what he's talking about is the manufacturers want to sell directly to the consumers and do away with dealers.
Well,
we need to step. Let me finish this one because he wants to step up our game after the sale. What's the value proposition against direct to consumer. I'll tell you what the value is. Direct to consumer sounds good, except the manufacturers can't do it.
Yep.
Ford Motor Company can't deliver a car in a timely manner. It takes a year to get an ordered Bronco, and the consumers back out. They get bored and they go buy a Ram, which they should have done in the first place. So direct to consumer sounds good. It looks good in the shower, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't really play in the real world. Okay.
But there's a lot of issues with that. Who's going to get the deal?
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
When the customer's
Tim,
$6,000 buried. When the customer's $6,000 buried, or they got a 430 credit score, and it's the relationship the dealership has with the lender that's going to be able to get the deal bought. Yeah, it's fine with that guy with an 800 credit score and no trade-in, but wait till the market shifts and now people are buried like they used to be when they came in to buy cars. So there's a whole lot of factors. It's not.
You mean our sales managers are going to actually have to remember how to work a car deal and get one bought?
Yeah.
I teach that.
Get off their ass and go out and take a turn.
Right. But for the sales managers listening too, like I talk about these 10 car a month sales guys or sales girls. I'm not talking to the salespeople and I'm not shaming them for it. It is the leaders and the managers who I'm talking to. But look, if you're one of those people, there's no shame in saying, I've also forgotten, or I didn't maybe know how in the beginning, or I'm not sure what to do now, and raising your hand. The shame comes when you think you know better and refuse to ask for help. Getting training or investing in yourself for even just researching things online is not a weakness or a vulnerability. It's a strength. A weakness is when you refuse to say that you're in need of that. And that's what's happening to these sales teams right now. And to be quite frank, it's what's happening to the sales managers based on GSMs and GMs and owners as well.
Managers don't know how to be managers.
All of us.
I spent years
industry-wide.
The biggest thing I had to do was teach the manager how to be a manager, how to think like a manager, how to be a manager, and how to move to another level.
I thought we were talking about what's new. That's the same.
Yeah.
New is old, what's old is new. New is old, what's old is new.
Changed.
I hate to say it, but back to the basics, people.
Back to the basics. Got NFL training camp going on. They're doing all the basic stuff right now. Stuff they've been doing.
Look, you should be doing now. Practice. I mean, Tim, you said, hey, what do we do about walkarounds? Well, why couldn't we do a twofer? When the car shows up right before I sell it, we pull it in the showroom, we do walk around training, and we videotape it. So now when the guy asks about that car, I've got that walk around that I can actually show and share so I can sell the next one before it even shows up. So there's a lot of things that we can do that is practicing for our future, right? When things go back the other way, we're practicing, we're honing our skills, but we're also utilizing that stuff to sell cars today with what we have to deal with.
Well,
just because I say
that's how we do sales training. That's how I train sales teams and managers. I train managers just like
Tim. You got to jump in there louder.
Yeah.
But just because I say it's boring and they're not using a lot of it right now, that's when we need to be practicing. You don't need it till you need it. It's the amateurs practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can't get it wrong, and that's. As managers and coaches, we have to make these guys practice, and we have to make it fun and bring some competition in there. I'm all about competition. I've got heavy hitter sets for high grosses. Guys get to autograph them. I got volleyballs for training where we throw them around for objections and closing and questions and everything. And it's just got to be different, man. We got to bring it up to speed and bring some fun and competition in the damn dealerships, and not let it be a grind, and don't let salespeople tell us they're not going to do the job we want them to do.
Not to mention, I want to just specifically talk about this walk around training. And when we talk about the fact that, we're starting to see inventories come back, but we have been in a situation where organically, because our inventory volumes have been lower, we're getting less and less traffic. Now, if your OEM takes reservations or does custom orders, why would you not mention that in your walk around video? Google has made massive shifts to what they're serving on the first page of search engine results pages, and they're giving more and more weight to video. So if you're going to jump on that from a training purpose, don't forget, just because you're making nice profits right now, it doesn't mean you can't optimize on your time investments and get that content onto your YouTube channel properly marked up and say at the end, hey, Mr. Smith had his custom ordered. You can get yours today. Click the link below. Come on.
Well, and it goes
Totally
right into
agree.
what's changing. What's changing is that people are consuming data at a different way. And all of the data that is consumed, especially video, is magic. Magically, an algorithm knows exactly what to show me, exactly what color buttons they should be, where my eyes go, what I should touch. It all feels magical, like subliminal messaging. So if the magic stops when a consumer gets to you, then all you have is an overpriced vehicle that maybe they'll buy and maybe they won't buy from you again. That's it. This is
Jump
the
in there,
right time.
Kipro.
Everything we teach on follow-up
Yes, sir.
and staying in touch with people is all video. Everything we do is video. The whole follow-up process is every week they get a 3-second tutorial video from the salesperson on their vehicle instead of just email templates that go in the garbage. We do have to change all of our communication to make it engaging with customers in today's world.
How much follow-up are you doing, Kip?
Our guys are really good at follow-up. I mean, they're constantly prospecting their previously sold people, because you wouldn't believe how many of our salespeople have had success. People bought the car a year ago. Their car hasn't gone down in value, even though they probably paid an addendum. They can still trade it in and keep their payments about the same and get whatever the new model is. Our Kia store, that's what they live off of, is repeat and referral business. So they're doing it. All of them are active on Facebook. They're getting very creative. I think our guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, Tim Kintz said something earlier about, retro advertising. I have taught that for 30 years, that we spend a fortune advertising for new customers, and we have no amount of budget aimed at past customers.
Right.
I call that retro advertising. We're advertising for strangers coming to the dealership continually, new people.
Right. Acquisition versus retention marketing.
Exactly.
Well, one of the biggest things I've seen in the last 2 years that I never saw before was so many people buying cars from out of the service drive. I mean, it's a pretty easy close when the guy's driving a 3-year-old car that he has a bunch of equity.
Relatively new.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've been beating that drum for 30 years, though, that they need to go back.
Yes, we have.
Problem is
that's
buried.
That's the key, though.
In the past.
The difference
That's the key, though.
When I was selling Chevrolets back in the day, if I sold a car to a customer 6 months ago and they wanted to trade, I tell them, I'd love to do a deal with you, but I got to go to lunch right now. Now it's a deal every time. Like every one of them is a deal. Nobody's upside down. It's the best thing ever.
When I was a salesperson back in the day, I would walk through this way in the day. I would walk through the service department. I'd go to the service lounge. Are you people having a good experience? Everybody treating you okay? I'd start a conversation with these people, and I could sell cars in the service lounge. And so today, now we're selling cars actively on the service drive. How much of that are you teaching, Tim Kintz?
Oh, we just set it up in one of our stores. Gosh, last week we were in there putting it together, putting a process together. It's like pulling teeth, getting the old managers, though, to buy into doing the process and not being over controlled. And every deal has to be brought to the manager to have it appraised. And we've got all the tools, man. We all got V-Auto. It's easy to appraise a car. And they just drag it out where it's still a 2-hour process on a vehicle exchange customer back in service. And it's speeding the velocity to deal up and compensating the salespeople the right way if you're going to get people back there that are going to work the service drive. But if you're not,
Bryan Horne.
Yes, I would tell you it was very, very effective for us for the service lane marketing and sales when we had inventory. Right now, my Honda store, I have 2 cars in stock, 2 new cars in stock. At my Hyundai store, I have 4 new cars in stock. So what we've kind of shifted now to is since the vehicles aren't losing a lot of value over the time, basically trying to sell off of reservations or purchase their car straight out if they have other means of transportation. So we're still able to use it. Unfortunately, not able to quite get the sales we wanted to out of it immediately anymore. And then what happens then, my salespeople are built for immediate gratification. So when you don't have the inventory to sell the people in service, they kind of hesitate, and as do the sales manager, hesitate to actually work those deals anymore. And that's an obstacle we're dealing with here.
Well, see, but that's just us getting in our own way. And as we're talking about that, I don't have anything to trade them up into.
Right.
Well, okay, so we're not going to go after the only 1 or 2 years, but we're all in the lack of new cars looking to have a better used car selection.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're doing a lot of switches from new that's not available to CPO.
Right.
We've got a lot of OEMs out there that are
which brand names are you talking about, Jennifer?
Well, Honda and Ford specifically are even expanding their CPO programs. We've got Ford Blue and we've got Honda True now that's opening up that range that you can certify these vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I mean, I've been buying cars out of the service lane just to buy cars for 11 years now. Before any software tools, just when we were doing it off of photocopies of ROs. But I think the number one issue so many stores have with this is there is no structure and there is no plan. You wouldn't go to the auction lane and put your hand up on every single car. So why would you do that in your service lane? Be smart. You have more data ahead of time about those customers who are coming through and segment for what those used car managers actually want on their lot for turn and profitability standpoint. You can't just go in there and tell the guys to work the lane. You've got to have a strategy for it.
You also can't just say things like, well, I want them to do it, but they won't, or I can't get them to do it. Like, this is not how the world works with a job. Okay. This is your job. This is the process you follow. Here's the tools and the technology and the training that you need to do it. And now I'm going to love you enough to hold you accountable for it. And if not, I'm going to love the rest of the team enough to not put up with that. Very simple.
Bryan Horne, you're on this panel today because I wanted the Toyota dealership, I wanted the rural fringe market dealership, and I wanted the Highline dealership, but Charles Cannon couldn't make it. He's a Lexus dealer on the West Coast. Sure. So I wanted to balance this out, and Tim Kintz is the trainer that's working with a whole lot of dealerships. So, and then the normal dog pound, the panel, the posse here. Dog pound posse, Ziegler's Angels.
Nice.
So we got the crew here. So I wanted to balance out the type of dealership. I bet you got a lot of old dog car salespeople that have been in the business for a while. Tell me about that, Bryan Horne.
Yeah, I do. And when we say a while, my newest salesperson that I have at either one of the two stores I operate has been with me for 5 years. Most of them have been a decade or more. So when we went pre-pandemic, the two things that I was wanting to concentrate on was employee retainment and retaining our customer base. And felt we've done a pretty good job. We're down about 20% in our employees. But typically that's that bottom 20% in sales specifically that churns in and out anyway. We managed to keep our core. And I would tell you, I'm fortunate that all of my hires in sales were with me pre-pandemic when business was the way hopefully it gets to within,
I would say you got an average sales person 15 years.
Yeah, that would be pretty accurate. That'd be pretty accurate. They've seen, all the ebbs and flows, how people buying habits have changed, how marketing habits, how
what I want to go to is how much of that is self-managed, or how much do you have to ride those people?
A lot of it is self-managed. We do, they have their benchmarks they have to maintain, but they know the expectations from being with us so long of what it is. And so a lot of that is self-managed. And that's one of the big differences that I'm seeing with the newer employees that if we have had to hire, they don't have a lot of self-accountability. Now that's a lot of internal issue because, we haven't had to make people that way. So that's something a shift that we have to fix within ourselves with our new employees.
Well, the employees today don't view this as a career. Kipro, they don't view it as a career. This is just a job till they get a better job.
Well, I feel like the car business, car sales, to me, it seemed like has always been like the guy's going to get a job selling cars because he's going to do that until he gets his real job. These guys that we have are making good money. There's a good number of them that are going to sell a lot of cars regardless of what happens with the market, because they have learned good habits and they know what they're doing. But I think the car business has always kind of been that way.
I think
Most of my
caution for
salespeople
all.
are college graduates that were doing this until they could get their job that they wanted, that they graduated with a degree with. So,
Yeah, my son graduated from UCF 2 years ago. He got an intern with a big, be a project manager for a big commercial building company. And they told him, if you work hard, 10 years from now, you'll be making $200,000 a year. Well, he wasn't making very much money, so he did that for 1 year. He heard me talk about how much our guys were making. He stopped doing that and moved to Vero Beach to sell cars. And he had me pull up his numbers the other day. He sold 60 cars and put up 500,000 in gross. So he's off to a pretty good start. But we have more people. We're getting higher quality people now because we can pay them. But our guys are used to making $1,200 a car. They're going to have to sell a lot more cars to keep on making the money they're making. Because I was used to making $100 a car.
yeah.
That's where the problem is. That's where I foresee the biggest part of this problem is all these people who came in, because the same thing happened in 2008. We lost a lot of great talent out of the car business because they had this perception that,
they never came baame
I make okay money on 8 cars. I make amazing money on 15 cars. And when that script flips and they have to actually work harder to make the same just to maintain, they start to think the grass is greener. They go 1 or 2 other places, realizes it's not, and then they end up leaving the business altogether. So I really feel like our biggest focus has to be employee retention right now. Or we are going to lose a lot of those people that
But it's not just retention, April. It's teaching our team members, regardless of what position they're in the dealership, to actually run their own business.
Yes.
How do they prospect? How can they pull?
Well, that's what Tim Kintz does for a living. That's what Tim does. He teaches people. And we don't offer the training to our people.
Well, and even with sales training, and Tim, you'll have to tell me, I've not seen sales training where they actually show a salesperson how to run their own P&L, how to look at the activities that they're doing each and every single day to get to a point where they're selling 10 cars just from appointments and everything else is gravy. The actual numbers that drive units on the board for each individual desk. I think that's what we're lacking. And I'm happy that there are companies like Tim's out there. But if you're a sales manager or a GSM or general manager or dealer principal, and your salespeople don't know how to run their own business at their desk, you're going to be in trouble pretty soon.
Tim Kintz, get in there.
Well, I think what you guys were saying, I think the biggest caution all managers need to have right now is, as the grosses start going down and they normalize, you better get salespeople's volume up so that they can offset the loss in commission with volume. So they're making the same amount of money. We're going to have massive turnover, and we're going to have a whole lot of green pea training we're going to have to be doing. And
Tim, I sold 30 cars a month in the days. 30 cars a month was the end of the world. I was only beaten one time as a salesperson by any other salesperson I worked with. But I got to tell you, I see people today selling 50, 60, 70 units, 150.
Everything we talk about, though, is about leadership, creating a culture of growth within the dealership. And I'd rather be short-staffed than wrong-staffed. And selling's a numbers game. It's just like it's like Moneyball, sabermetrics. It's the numbers, you control the game. If you don't know the numbers, the game controls you. And it's all about knowing your leading and your lagging indicators. And every day when I walk through the door, how many calls do I need to do? How many videos do I need to text out? How many social posts do I need to do? How many incoming calls do I need to try to take? It's the controllable versus the uncontrollables. And it doesn't happen overnight. We don't hire somebody that knows how to do this stuff. We hire good people and we turn them into great salespeople. And it's crawl, walk, run. Everybody's not going to be a 50-car salesperson. But if I have a 6-car salesperson, I don't give up on them. I hired them. I made the commitment to them and their family. My goal is to get them to 8. And then when they get to 8, they can see 10. That's what leadership is all about. You have to be able to lead, manage, train, and coach. All 4 of those is what being an effective leader in a dealership is. Call it the leadership quadrant. And there's, leading is detail, or the retail side. Managing is the detail side. That's the sabermetrics. That's knowing your numbers. It's the statistics. And the training is transfer of education or of knowledge, and coaching is rolling up your sleeves and working with them, doing the walk around with them, not saying go do a walk around. It's sitting down and presenting numbers and overcoming objections in a negotiation with them, not telling them to go do it. And it's like loading their lips at a desk. Here, go say this to the customer. How many times did you ask them to repeat it back to you and they weren't even close to what you said? Like, where did that come from? It's because they're they're emotionally and financially attached to that customer. You don't teach somebody something new during the deal. I don't teach a kid to hit during the at-bat. It's what happens between customers is what's
right. We don't practice on live customers.
Right.
Tim,
costs way too much to practice on a live customer.
Tim, I can't tell you how many times I stand behind a sales manager, and the sales manager is doing their best shit. Go, and they tell the salesperson, go in and say this. But if the customer does this, you say this. And if the customer says this, you say this. But if they do this, you do that. And if they do this, you put the pen down and do this and do that. So the customer goes back to the customer, and I hear the salesman say, "You said we need a cheaper car."
I mean, imagine if the manager got up and taught it by going out and doing it. Right. I just want to throw something in real quick. I was pretty quiet during that time, so I just want to throw something in. We talk a lot about retention when it comes to money. Please don't forget, as you're doing this, that not everybody is motivated by money. Amen. And not all of these people will be lost because they want a $200,000 paycheck. Not everybody is motivated that way. There are a significant segment of your team that will be lost over the frustration of not knowing how to properly do their job when it changes, and the frustration that they will have when they go back and forth to the desk and the desk isn't really sure either. And that will be a prominent loss because this generation, these younger millennials and these Gen Z, that's not the motivation that they stick by. They don't work to live. Right? They don't do it that way. They don't live to work. They work to live. Quite the opposite, right? So please don't forget about that part.
On mom's sofa playing Xbox.
Yeah, they don't. And I will tell you, if you are still a dealership with one pay plan, you are making a mistake. And don't say, but the accounting office, I don't care. Not everybody is motivated the same way. And pay plans should be written to motivate the person that you are attempting to motivate, not a team to make it easy for everybody.
Internal motivation and external motivation. We mistake internal and external. External is the rah-rah. That's great. That's easy to do. It's creating that internal motivation. That is giving them skills. They see themselves succeed, and then they want to keep succeeding, right? It's that culture.
Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to go to work every day and not know how to do their job.
Here's one thing I want all managers to remember too, is we talk about salespeople needing training, and we got to train them. When's the last time we held training for managers on how to take an early flyby and what to say to a customer? How to go take a TO while they're working a deal? How to make something as easy as an appointment confirmation phone call, right? When do they role play their scripts? And if they don't have confidence, they don't go out and talk to customers. So we have to remember, just like we say salespeople need to practice their scripts, as managers, it's really easy to lose your mojo and not want to get out of your chair and get the chair ass and go talk to that customer because I don't want to fail in front of my salespeople. So it's making sure we're all practicing.
This has been one great broadcast. We're down to the last 30 seconds. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. Kipro, you're always a pleasure to see you. I've known you for quite a while, and I'm really glad to see you here. Used car manager at Vero Beach Toyota, Tim Kintz from the Kintz Group. You can find Tim Kintz, Kintz, absolutely a trainer that I can live with and endorse. I've watched his videos. I just met him recently online, but I've known him for a long time. He doesn't know who I watch. And Bryan Horne, how far back do we go?
Oh, a couple decades.
Oh my gosh. And of course, the dog pounders, Jennifer Briggs, April Simmons, and the queen of BDC, Bobby Heron. Hey, everybody wave goodbye to the audience. Wave
Bye,
goodbye.
guys.
Bye.